Okay, we are live.
Hey, Chris, we are live. Welcome inside the Chris and Nick show, everybody. We are just wrapping up day 3 as we speak. Mr. Irrelevant, I believe, is about to be selected, Chris, but the Giants are done. The Giants have wrapped up this draft after landing Deonte Banks on day 1 and then coming back and getting John Michael Schmitz and Jalen Hyatt on day 2. Absolute grand slam. Not that there aren't warts with some of those players, but still a very solid day. I felt like day 3 was also just more so punt because you traded up so many times earlier to land the guys that you did on the first 2 days. You had what? 3 picks that were not, or 3 picks that were 2 in the 7th round, 1 in the 6th round. And then you had Eric Gray, who I really like. And we'll talk about Oklahoma running back Eric Gray, who initially attended the University of Tennessee. I ended up watching a decent amount of his film just through watching Marvin Mims, and I respected his game. And then I dove into more of his tape, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But the Giants came away with the haul of Eric Gray, and then a top 30 visit in Trey Hawkins III, who is a cornerback out of Old Dominion, good size. I can't wait to get to his film if I can find any. And Jordan Riley, Jordan Riley, an interior defensive lineman out of Oregon, a massive individual, kind of seems and reminds me of DJ Davidson a little bit. Different body types, though. And then Jervarius Owens, a safety out of Houston, who was just selected about 5 minutes ago. I looked up some stuff on him, just statistics, but I have not gotten to his film quite yet. Chris, how are you feeling about day 3, my friend?
I think how I'm feeling will depend on what happens with Eric Gray and Trey Hawkins. Yeah, I'm with you. I really appreciate Eric Gray as a player. I think he has a good chance of being a contributor at some level this year. And Trey Hawkins is pretty interesting. The other two, I feel like Jordan Riley and, pardon me, Jervarius Owens, they feel like undrafted free agents that the Giants liked and wanted to make sure they got a hold of.
That's what it seemed like to me as well. And at that point of the draft, that's what those deep 7th round picks are like. These aren't guys that Joe Shane's like, oh man, this is plug and play starters. These are developmental type of players. These are the Marcus McKethins. These are the DJ Davidsons. Unfortunately, both of those individuals were hurt last year for the New York Giants. But one takeaway I had with Hawkins and with Jervarius Owens, because again, I have not seen much tape on them quite yet. Trust me, once I get a hold of it, we'll watch it and we'll discuss it on the podcast on a later episode. But they both ran sub 7 3 cones, like pretty damn good 3 cones. Like with Jervarius Owens, he ran a 6.75 3 cone at his size is I think like 6 foot 195, so he's not the biggest safety, but still that's an adequate size for a safety. And then when you look at Hawkins is somebody who has a pretty damn large wingspan, just under 78 inches, over 32-inch arms. He's about 6'2", 188 pounds. Another player who had a sub 7 3 cone. So it looks like the Giants are really putting a priority on these agile type of defenders, which if you watch Wink Martindale's defense and just football in general, it's pretty damn important to have agile defenders out there.
Yeah, and Jervarius Hawkins can play coverage. He was dinged in his scouting reports for dropping some should-have-been interceptions, but he does have 8 passes defense, which adds a safety defensive back. That's not bad to go with a pair of forced fumbles, 74 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, no sacks. That's fine. If he plays any defense at all, he'll get a chance to rush the passer. Yeah, I feel like these guys, they're kind of lottery tickets for Wink Martindale in his defense, where he wanted athletes in the secondary, where, Jervarius Owens maybe be a versatile safety piece. If he makes the team at all, it will be as a special teamer, but let's just not make any mistakes about that. Trey Hawkins, he's got, I would say, man coverage traits. He is an impressive athlete. I looked up his pro day, 4.39 40, 6.74 3 cone, a 4.22 short shuttle, 37.5-inch vert at 6'1", 197. So he's got size, he's got length, he's got athleticism. Those are tools for the coaching staff to work with.
So the only scouting report that I'm comfortable giving right now on these players would be Eric Gray, because I've watched a decent amount of Eric Gray, and I'm sure you have as well, just watching Oklahoma's suspect offense that did not maximize the talents of Marvin Mims, who is now with Sean Payton, and that should be a fun marriage. But I was able to get through some Eric Gray film after the Giants made that selection. And I got to say, man, some of his strengths that I saw, vision and patience. And this is a player who ran in a multitude of different, or ran in a variety of different rushing schemes. They ran a lot of power gap. They ran a lot of zone, stretch zone, inside zone, duo, a lot of counter. And also he operated as the wildcat quarterback, essentially, not only in the red zone, which they had that package, but there was a large chunk of the Texas game where it was just like, hey, number 0, Eric Gray, you're going to be the quarterback. So I liked his vision and his patience. And I think he actually threw 2 passes in that Texas game. One of them was intercepted. So not the best situation when it comes to that.
But
fine.
That's fine.
That's fine, right? Yeah, whatever. We're not going to be asking him to throw the ball. He's very elusive. Like in the alley, this is a player who is going to make alley defenders miss. He's a lot quicker than he is fast, because that's one of my dings on him. I feel like he has ankle breaking type of suddenness, though, too, Chris. And he really leveraged that and used that to make these, again, Big 12 defenders most of the time. But he made those Big 12 defenders look like idiots. He made them look silly a lot. Like he has a very, very impressive ability to stick his foot in the ground, head fake, and then just juke and explode in the opposite direction. So short area quickness, lateral agility is something that Eric Gray definitely possesses. He runs low. I really think he has quick and efficient and determined feet. And I mean that when he's pressing the line of scrimmage. I mean that when he's getting skinny through gaps inside. Like he's not the biggest guy. He's like 5'9", he has solid girth. He's like 207 pounds, I believe, but he can get really skinny. And when he is employing his spin move in space, this is somebody who had 58 missed tackles forced this past season. That's pretty solid. And now Bijan Robinson had 104, but I think Bijan Robinson had the most missed tackles in the entirety of PFF. Like literally, I don't think there's been a running back who has had that many missed tackles in a single season. David Montgomery, I think, had 99 when he came out of Iowa State. Again, another Big 12 running back. But regardless of the fact, I also think he is a 3-down back. He could be. He's a 3-down potential back. He's not going to be a dominating blocker, but he's smart. I saw him identify blitzes, put himself in the way, and he can lose slow enough, as we talk about enough with tight ends. So those are some of my strengths about his profile, Chris. What were some of the strengths that you saw about Eric Gray?
With him, I noticed his vision, his ability to anticipate defenders and then use that elusiveness, use that quick twitch, close quarters athleticism. Like he is a phone booth player. He does not have pull away speed. He's not going to run away from pretty much anybody. Maybe defensive tackles. He can run away from them. But I think most linebackers can probably run him down or at least keep pace with him. But I also really liked what he did as a receiver. He had a pretty good amount of receiving production, and he looked natural doing it. He presented a good target, framed the ball well, and I think if you are looking for, like you say, a 3-down running back guy you can bring on to spell Saquon Barkley or Matt Breida on any down, any distance, Eric Gray is a guy who can do that. Now, he is not going to get you explosive plays, maybe out on a wheel route, something like that, he could do it. But from the backfield, carrying the ball, he's not going to be an explosive running back, but he is a conductor. He will keep the train on schedule.
He will keep the train on schedule. I have this written down. What he lacks in breakaway speed, he makes up for with his rushing instincts and his short area quickness. And I think that is a solid way to look at it, because in my could improve, my weaknesses, if I want to use a euphemism, I'm going to go with could improve, but it is a weakness of his game. He does not have breakaway ability, right? Modest acceleration. And you can see it because you have linebackers in pursuit chasing him down. He doesn't bust any angles of safeties. And that's something that you want from a lot of your running backs, but it's not a necessity, right? Like you can have a role in an offense, in a committee as this type of running back, even though he doesn't have that long speed. I'd also say he's not a pile mover. I think he does a good job angling his body to force defenders try tackle him in arm tackles, right? Like I feel like he's very slippery in that manner, and he can run through those arm tackles. Like his contact balance is solid in that with that kind of style, but I don't believe he's somebody who is just going to lower his shoulder and just bull over people when it's mano-y-mano, I am square against you. He doesn't necessarily have that in his profile. He also, like I said a little bit earlier, has kind of a small frame. And I also thought there were times he got a little bit cute behind the line of scrimmage and tried to elongate a run and then just got chased down, where he could just, get vertical, get your 3 yards and then settle for another play instead of getting, no yards and getting tackled at the line of scrimmage. I didn't think it was a huge problem within his game, but it was something that I saw in a couple instances throughout the Big 12 tape I watched.
Yeah, and that's understandable. Sometimes guys get greedy. They think they've got juice they don't have, or just it's a football player. I can make the play. And, sometimes you just can't. I do like the Eric Gray pick. There were a few running backs on the board when the Giants were picking there where I thought they could go different directions, get Evan Hull or Christian Rodriguez out of Kentucky. Yeah, Eric Gray was also on my radar as well. I feel like the Giants probably went with Eric Gray because of his upside as a receiver. He is a guy I think they could put on the field in their pony package and still have that receiving threat of a third or fourth receiver while having only two receivers on the field and maybe forcing the defense into a base package.
Joe Shane was probably Key and Peele meme sweating when it came down to either Eric Gray or Evan Hall, just because he loved the fact that Evan Hall at the combine was taking it to the distance every single time. It didn't matter. But according to a lot of people, I was reading like scouting reports on Eric Gray after I got done watching my film, because there's a lot of insight from people around the league. And they say the coaches really just revered Eric Gray and spoke about his work ethic and his character and the fact that he played through several injuries this past season. That's going to appeal to really any coaching staff, but specifically the Lions and the New York Giants. Smart, tough, and dependable. That's the New York Giants mantra. The Lions, they like to eat a bunch of freaking kneecaps and everything like that, but that's going to appeal to Joe Shane and Brian Dable.
Oh, absolutely. Overall, I think the Giants had themselves one hell of a draft. Today it was boring. It took them 3 hours and 20 minutes to make their first pick. There were points, especially in the fourth round and earlier on in the fifth round, where I was like, I kind of wish they didn't make those trades up, because there were guys I liked coming off the board right around when the Giants would pick. It's like, ooh, that guy could have helped. He could have made this team better, at the very least improve the depth. But overall, I really feel like the Giants made themselves better and gave themselves a couple lottery tickets. Now, there are areas of the team I wish they had addressed. I wished they had gotten a 1C edge defender. I wish they had been able to get a linebacker who could be on the field and contributing right away. And I really wish they could have gotten a safety who would really, I would say, kind of take Julian Love's place. Nothing is Bobby McCain, but there's a step down there.
There is a step down there. Maybe Javarius Owens can be that player. I know it's in the 7th round, but another reason we're going to more than likely have another episode in the coming days, our Monday show, if you will. The Giants are bringing in UDFAs right now. Like, phone calls are being made. So the draft has happened. The Giants got their players, but they're not done. And remember, last year, the Giants added, I felt like, a couple really solid priority free agents right after the draft. Trenton Thompson, the safety out of San Diego State, who's still on their practice squad. I feel like he had good tape, and he's a good special teams player. And also Timon Fox, who actually had a really solid role with the Giants as a run defending person who they like to put on the sidelines right before halftime. And if you run a route towards the sidelines, he's going to take your head off, which he did twice last season. So I also really believe in this front office's ability to identify and locate talent. So now maybe they can go out and get some of these players that are UDFAs, bring them into their program, and really find lightning in a bottle, as they say. And one player that is still around that Chris and I have both mentioned is Ivan Pace. And I'm sure his phone is probably ringing off the hooks right now. I know he's a diminutive, smaller individual, but what he offers fits well with what Wink Martindale wants. So I would not be shocked if the Giants are trying to bring him in. And let's not forget how the UDFA process works too, Chris. You have a certain amount of money allocated to that process, and you don't have to give every single player the same amount of money. If you really value somebody, you can go and be like, hey, I want to give you $100,000 bonus, right? I want to give you an $85,000 bonus. Come onto our team, whereas other teams might not be giving them that. So these UDFAs, they have options, whereas if you're a draft pick, you're going to that team and you're getting paid this. You can get paid more as a UDFA than a draft pick.
Yeah, and you also get to choose your fit. A lot of times going as an undrafted free agent is better for a prospect than being a 6th or 7th round draft pick, because, like you said, you get more money, and also you get to pick your situation. You can look at a team and say, okay, say you're Yeah, Lonnie Phelps out of Kansas. He is a pretty good edge defender. He's got some juice to him. Yeah, maybe not
Yeah,
the bendiest guy in the world, but like he has the ability to affect an offense. He could look at the Giants and say, "Okay, you've got Kayvon, you've got Aziz, but then behind them you've got Jihad Ward and Tamon Fox. You know what? I've got a decent shot at seeing the field there. I'll go to New York." Or Ivan Pace, they've got Bobby Okereke and Darian Beavers
I
and
like
Mike
Darren.
McFadden as well.
Yeah, Micah
Yes.
McFadden. I actually, and I want to get your opinion on this. We don't have to talk too much about it. I think I'm higher on Darian Beavers off of the little bit that we saw just in training camp and a preseason and a half of a game than I am on Micah McFadden right now, who got benched twice last season against the Packers, and then for Gerard Davis, who the Giants also brought back, which we should keep in mind.
We should, yes. Yeah, that I think is fair. I think they'll play different roles within the
Yeah,
defense. Darian Beavers, I think, is much more of the Mike linebacker. Mike McFadden, will linebacker, maybe a third down blitzer, definitely special teams player. That I think will shake itself out over the course of the offseason program and training camp. Maybe McFadden having the experience of being on the field will help him improve.
maybe.
And we'll just have to see what a bigger sample size reveals about Darian Beavers.
I'll say this too, Chris. Let's not forget Darian Beavers was an edge rusher at UConn before he transferred to Cincinnati, and
Very true.
Cincinnati used him as an edge rusher. I think he had 4 sacks, and I think like 2 of them were against Notre Dame in 2021 as an edge rusher for Cincinnati in that package. And after this draft, looking at who the Giants selected, there might be some snaps up there for edge. So I wouldn't even be surprised if Darian Beavers comes back healthy, if they employ him and his skill set as an edge rusher.
Yeah, that absolutely could happen. And there is still potentially snaps available. It's been a
Yeah.
long day. Words are hard. For maybe an Ellerson Smith, if he could stay healthy for 5 minutes, that would be nice to see. And of course, we do have Andre Carter has been brought up in the comments. Yeah,
Mark Thompson, thank you.
There are a lot. There are still guys out there, like you said. This process is not done yet. We've got scouts, coaches, front office guys. We know Joe Shane was out on the road scouting during the season. They can all be calling prospects, talking to them, leveraging the connections they built over the course of the year and the course of the draft process to recruit these guys.
There are several players who are still around that I think are talented, and I think there could be a developmental role for them to potentially grow into an NFL player, like Emil Ekiyor out of Alabama. He's still around. Like someone brought up Andre Carter in the Mark Thompson brought up Andre Carter. Dude, Andre Carter was being mocked in like the first round not long ago. He didn't get drafted. This is the edge out of an Army. Like it's kind of crazy when you think about that, right? Like the hype about Andre Carter not long ago was really, really high, if I remember correctly, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of players here, linebackers too, and I think the Giants, like we said, Ivan Pace, Jeremy Banks is still around, Cam Jones. There's a decent amount of talent. Rashawn Wright at a cornerback, so we'll have to wait and see what the New York Giants do at undrafted free agency. But that's usually a mad scramble, and it takes a couple days to sort out what actually happened. But I'm excited for it, bro.
Yes, as am I. In some ways, I am more excited about undrafted free agency than the last round or 2 of the draft, just because the Giants have a really good history of finding gems in undrafted free agency. You got Rich Seibert, you got obviously Victor Cruz, Mark Herzlich, Spencer Paysinger, Henry Hynoski, even Nick Gates, all signed with the Giants as undrafted free agents and played pretty big roles for the team. So, like I said, it's not over yet. They can still find good players who can help the team this year.
Chris, do you have anything else on day 3? Again, I know Chris and I didn't speak a lot about the picks that we have not watched yet, but we're going to get to the tape and we will report back on that.
Yeah, no, I just right now want to get to the tape. Actually, I want to get to my pizza first, then get to the tape.
Pizza. There you go, Chris. But thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into the Chris and Nick Show here on Big Blue View Radio. Please, if you have not done so already, like and subscribe to the podcast. Leave a comment, too, and a 5-star review. That would be great. And also head on over to bigblueview.com, where we will have all of our written content extensively covering the New York Football Giants and all these draft selections. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely night.